Hey guys, MetalJesus here. Now I love collecting for the Nintendo 64. However, it is a huge bummer when you first connect it to a modern HD television because it just wasn't designed for it. It looks incredibly blurry. It's not detailed at all. So about a year ago, I got the UltraHDMI kit for the N64 because it claims to be the best upscaling solution out there. However, there's a huge caveat, and that is, if you get it pre-installed, it can set you back $400. Is it worth it? Let's take a look. So what is the UltraHDMI kit? Well, to help me illustrate that, I'm going to use some footage from a YouTube channel called Game Tech US. And the reason why I'm doing that is because this solution is a kit that goes inside your N64 and directly connects to the printed circuit board. What that allows it to do is capture the video as digital RGB and at the highest quality possible. I also want to use this footage to give people an idea as to how much work is involved in doing this modification yourself, which you're certainly able to do. Now, me personally, I do know how to solder, but I don't do it very often. And so for me, I was happy to push this on to another local Seattle gamer who is way more experienced at the nuances of this. And I was really glad I did. Once installed, this is what you got. On the top there, you still have the standard AV out, and then right below that, you have a mini HDMI port. One of the cool things about this kit is that both outputs will function at the same time, which helped me greatly with this video because I can capture both at the same time using two laptops and two Elgato game captures. All right, enough farting around. Let's take a look at some Star Fox 64.
We're entering Corneria City now.
What you're looking at here is Star Fox 64 captured by the Elgato using composite. Composite is how most of us played this game back when it first came out because composite video was probably the most common connection that you would have on a US television. It's also worth noting that the N64 outputs video at 240p in North America. And while that resolution is fine if you still own an old school CRT television, most of us have upgraded to brand new HD televisions, and this is the type of quality that you typically see on that. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and switch over to the UltraHDMI kit. Again, keep in mind, this is the same N64, same cartridge, everything.
Take this one. Get the one behind me. Something's wrong with the G diffuser.
Obviously, the difference is extraordinary. It's so shocking to go back and forth and just experience the N64 in a whole new way. I mean, the clarity is amazing. And there's a bunch of cool little tricks going on that we're going to explain in a little bit more detail. But first, let's check out some other games and compare the two. This is a game I absolutely love called Forsaken 64. And just like before, we're gonna start with the composite video. And I wanna remind you, it's capturing both at the same time. So this is the same cartridge, same system. Now let's switch over to the UltraHDMI. And then back again. As you can see, it's really hard to go back to composite video after experiencing the UltraHDMI. It's night and day difference. Here is one of my favorite racing games on the system. This is Beetle Adventure Racing. Again, this is composite. Then let's go ahead and switch over to HDMI. Now I know some of you are going, hey, wait a second here. Composite isn't the best video that the N64 can do, and you're right. Actually, S-Video is pretty easy to get out of it, so let's try that. Here is S-Video footage, and this is a great option for people who are looking for something that is a step up from composite, and thankfully you can get these cables for really cheap. S-Video cables cost about $5 or $10, but they still don't hold a candle to HDMI output from that mod. It's night and day difference. Also, I want to quickly mention RGB. RGB mods for the N64 have been around for a long time. A lot of people swear by them, and they're way cheaper. I've seen complete modded systems on eBay for around $150 to $200, which is a good deal, but for me, having an HDMI solution for my television is just so much more convenient. Let's go ahead and get into the menu for the UltraHDMI and check out some of its settings. To get into the menu system, you press these 4 buttons right here. It looks more complicated than it is, trust me. You can bring up this menu at any time in any game, and as you can see, there's a bunch of different things you can do. You have fill modes, which can be nice depending on your television and your preference. Gamma boost if you want to tweak that, but below that is where things get kind of interesting. Old school gamers love their scan lines, and you have a couple different options here. Under advanced, there's a bunch of different options, but I want to point out this de-blur option here. That option is kind of like voodoo because it basically cleans up extra columns of blurry pixels that most Nintendo 64 games are sort of known for, and a lot of people just don't like. The resolutions you can choose are all the way up to 1080p at 60 Hz, and the amazing thing is it does this all with an average latency of only 1 frame, or about 16 milliseconds. So here's the thing, I'm going to be completely honest. The N64, as we all know, was never really designed to run on these gloriously big HD televisions at 1080p and with this de-blurring turned on and all that. I mean, don't get me wrong, this looks amazing, but the truth is, this was a console made for a time for CRT technology. And what we're doing with this, in some regards, some people don't like. You know, it's a little too sharp, or maybe it's pointing out the flaws a little bit too much. It doesn't look like maybe your childhood. Well, thankfully this thing actually has a retro mode that hopes to kind of fix that. Here's a game a lot of you are going to be familiar with, that is Perfect Dark, of course. Please forgive my lack of skill when I'm capturing this footage. It is so weird going back and playing this after using modern controllers for so long for shooters because it doesn't have the double thumbstick. But anyways, I want to show this because I'm using the default settings for the UltraHDMI, nothing really extra added on here. But if you turn on retro mode, you get scan lines. There's also a artificial CRT bloom, a couple other little tricks to make it look like a 1990s television. Here we are back to the default settings. And then I'm going to switch over to retro mode again. Let's take a look at one of my favorite games on the N64. This is Waverace. We're looking at it through composite first, and then we're going to switch over to HDMI. Again, these are the default settings, but maybe you prefer a little more retro look, maybe some scan lines. Let's take a look at that. I have to admit, I like this mode a lot, especially when you're playing these games on a big HD television. It just smooths it out a little bit. I don't know, it just makes it feel right. I also like that there's no noticeable performance hit in using it, so why not? So, the question remains, do I think it's worth it? Do I think it's worth spending all of that money to get this modded Ultra HDMI N64? Well, I don't think there's any doubt. This is by far the best visual quality that you can get from that console. I don't think there's anything that can touch it. I mean, RGB's very close, but that de-blurring effect is amazing. And again, with very little latency. I do think that if you have the skills to do the installation yourself, to do the soldering, then you should definitely spend the money to get the kit and do it yourself. I mean, you would save a ton of money. But for everybody else who needs to buy it pre-installed by someone who knows what they're doing, well, you're looking at least online, about $300 to $400 for that. That's a hard pill to swallow. So at that price, I really think it's for the Uber fans. I mean, if you grew up with the N64, if it's your favorite system, if you collect for it seriously, then you should definitely own this mod because it's the best version available. And I can honestly say, after owning it for a year now, I could never go back. This is my main N64. I use it for all the games I play, all the gameplay footage I capture. It's fantastic. So this is a great solution for me, but it's not the only one. There's a video out there that was done by the YouTube channel My Life in Gaming, where they take a detailed look at all the different video options that are available for people wanting to get the best video out of their console. But if you're into this sort of stuff, it's highly recommended. I'm gonna link to it up in the corner here. Also, I'd love to know what you thought of this video because I'd love to do this modification for every console I possibly could. Having everything output to HDMI would just simplify my life greatly. And I don't know, it might make for some good videos. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing and take care. One more thing I need to let you guys know is that as far as I can tell, these Ultra HDMI kits are created by one guy. And so people get on waiting lists for months to get a new supply of them. So it's not impossible, but because of the demand and because of the quality, there is a bit of a waiting period. I'll put links down in the video description below so you can check out some sites that specialize in selling these and also modding them for you. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching.